You think he just doesn't care anymore. Why doesn't he do his exercises? Why doesn't he try to talk to me? Why does he just prefer to sit on the couch and watch TV? This sentence shows up all the time. I just heard it last week in one of my consults. But it's not what is really going on. And that's what we're getting into today. Nobody told you how to live a good life when your loved one has aphasia. You can. This is life beyond aphasia. It's about learned helplessness. And in this episode, we're going to define what it is, what underlies it, and what can be done about it. This isn't about laziness. It's often about a loss of control. We're going to look at the emotional and the psychological weight behind why some stroke survivors stop trying, especially when there's the added complication of aphasia. By the end of this episode, you're going to have a clearer idea. You're going to have clearer language for what you're experiencing and what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And you're going to have a better way to respond that builds traction instead of tension. This episode is especially for care partners and survivors who just feel stuck. You've been patient. You've tried encouragement for your person. You have tried everything that you can think of to motivate them. You facilitate and you organize and you plan and prepare for, but none of these things lands. So why is that? Your partner still chooses to sit on the TV or says later to every suggestion or no to things that you suggest you guys should be doing together. The things that you used to do just don't seem to be important anymore. And you as the care partner are left to wonder, why won't he try? So let's talk about it. This is not coming from a place of blame, but from real lived experience. This lived experience is something that my mentor and I call learned helplessness. And where does it come from? This is one of those interesting things that you don't see it until a person is usually a year or more after rehab. For the last 11 years, I have worked exclusively in this chronic aphasia space via telepractice. And I have talked to so many families, and there is a theme. And I started looking into why do people stop trying? Let's go back before we can go forward. In the early days of rehab, there are dozens of people involved. And you and your survivor are just being told what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. But as your person moves through rehab, that help and support and telling you what to do, that gradually fades. And in some rehab circumstances, the therapist and the physician do a really great job of empowering families to start picking up the slack, to be taking on more of that responsibility. So that's an inverse relationship. Heavy help early on in rehab that fades the further you get through the rehab process until when you're discharged from outpatient therapy, you and your person are on your own. But what has to happen during this process of declining support from the professionals, you and your person have to take on more responsibility. And sometimes, for whatever reason, and it could be multiple reasons, you were never handed the keys to the car. You were never passed the baton to be picking up the slack, to doing those things that you're supposed to be doing. And then you get to discharge, and then the couple of months that follow discharge, when the house is quiet and the dust is settling, and you look at your survivor and your survivor looks at you and you start thinking, now what? This is where learned helplessness kind of festers and it grows because you may not know that you have the tools, or you may not have been taught the tools, or you may not have the motivation to go and figure it all out on your own. Because what we do know is rehab is hard. Having gone through a life-changing medical event is hard on everybody, and not everybody has the capacity to go be their own cheerleader. So there was one wife whose husband had been home for 9 months, and her biggest complaint is that she just can't get him to do anything. Like it was like pulling teeth to get him to take a shower or to even shave every now and then. She wasn't frustrated because she thought he was lazy. She was heartbroken because she missed the man who used to care about himself. She missed the man who would go to work and give her a kiss on the cheek when he'd come home, and they'd have dinner together and talk about their day and their family. But when I was working with him, it became very clear he hadn't just given up. He just didn't see the point. The therapies that he was left to do for his home program, for example, he didn't see how they made one bit of difference. He felt like it was busy work, so it was just easier for him not to put out the effort. So the core message is it's not about giving up, it's about getting lost. Most survivors are not consciously choosing to stop trying. They're just trying to get through the day. Especially when you have aphasia, life really shrinks to what's right in front of them. The circle becomes very small. Planning 6 months ahead, rebuilding identity, all of that comes later and with healing and with strategy. They are not lazy, they're disoriented. The important thing to say out loud, and the message that I want you to take home from this episode, is that they are not being selfish or short-sighted. They're just stuck in survival mode. So the brain quietly learns through this process of rehab that somebody else will take care of it, right? The nurse will step in and help me do this. The physical therapist will step in and help me do this. The speech therapist will encourage me so that I can do this. But if you don't know how to step up for yourself, if you don't know how to advocate for yourself, that's where this kind of paralysis, not the physical kind of paralysis, but almost an emotional mental paralysis. And it can happen fast, especially when speech won't come. Your hand won't cooperate. People interrupt and talk over you. Rehab ends and you feel like I should be a lot better, but real life is still broken. And the brain starts to believe that trying doesn't change anything, so why try? So this leads to failure, to confusion, to resignation. So I want to tell you about Gary. Gary has turned out to be an amazing friend of mine. He is a stroke survivor who lost the use of his dominant hand. Gary was a talented guitarist, one of these that all of his friends, family looked up to. He would teach lessons. But after the stroke, he stopped trying. He stopped playing. And it was 2 years into his recovery that one of his friends, who was tired of seeing Gary mope around, got in his face and said, "Dude, you need to start playing again. You're the best guitarist I know. You need to be teaching me guitar and everybody else too." And that is when the light bulb turned on for Gary. This was the spark that lit something in Gary. And that's when he began to figure out how to play again with just his left hand. He didn't need more rehab drills. He needed something that mattered to him. Because here's another take-home message. You're still in there and your effort still matters. I'm going to tell you about my friend Autumn. Autumn had to figure out a way to get control again. She didn't have a stroke, but she developed aphasia during the pandemic. And she was not given any assistance. She was not referred to speech therapy. She was just told to go home. And it took months for her language to return. And by the time it did, people had stopped listening. She felt invisible, like effort didn't matter. But when she found community, purpose, and the chance to lead conversations with others who are going through the same thing, everything changed for her. She got control back, not through language alone, but through meaning. So rehab never explained that the baton was being passed to your survivor and to you, their care partner. Discharge is not the end of recovery. Truly, it is just the beginning. This is the part where you have to figure out what you want. And I mean you as the survivor and you as their loved one. No one says, hey, now you are in charge of your own therapy. They send you home with a sheet of exercises, but not a roadmap. And if therapy doesn't connect, if those exercises that are 10 years old and you know they're 10 years old because of the quality of the copy you have of those exercises is any indication, it's after you are home and the dust settles that you have to figure out real life. You have to make those exercises meaningful to you. If you're doing physical exercises to strengthen your leg, you have to make that connection to it helping you walk and helping you maintain your balance and to be able to walk upstairs. You have to take whatever those exercises are and apply them to real life. If therapy never connects the exercises to your real life, to your real identity, to real meaning, then learned helplessness fills that void. When rehab ends, that's when you really have to figure out how to keep going. The real solution is traction, not pressure. And this is often where care partners get stuck. You're the one running around managing the calendar and the appointments and the household and making the decisions while your person is not engaged. So therefore, you push harder. Maybe you nag, maybe you beg, maybe you bribe. But the effort, their effort, is not going to come from pressure. It's going to come from one small, clear win, something that feels like them. It's not about tricking them into trying. It's about making the effort relevant. Control for your survivor, control over their life, is the antidote, but it's not the force. So here's a question for you. What is one thing he used to love that recovery hasn't touched yet? What is it that he used to love? Can you think of it right now? Can you say it out loud? Can you write it down? This could be your starting point. So ask yourself, how can I connect today's task, whatever that exercise is, or whatever the thing that needs to be done for rehab, to a future goal that still matters to him? Perhaps you can tie something from speech therapy to the real world. Honey, if we practice these scripts when we go to Chili's on Friday with the grandkids, you can order your own food. It might sound like a little thing, but being able to choose your own food in a restaurant and to say it in a confident way, or to say it in a combination of ways, to convey it, to communicate it, whether it's through writing, pointing, words, gestures, that is still communication and that is still control. We have to tie something that they need to be practicing to something in the real world. And sometimes that gets lost when you're in rehab, or it gets talked about in rehab, but you nor your survivor are in a place to really process it because you're just surviving. We have to help the survivor draw the line between effort and meaning for them. And we have to do it again and again. So if you're seeing resistance or your survivor shutting down, it is not that he doesn't care. It's that no one ever helped him see how his effort leads to something worth fighting for. And once we rebuild that bridge, that's when everything changes. Rehab ends. Life doesn't. Rebuild communication, rebuild connection, rebuild life. This is life beyond aphasia.